Hello Militians, Wow here, and it's that time of year again. New generation, new story, and time to refresh everyone on the important details to know before G28 Ruins in Twilight arrives. So spoilers ahead for those of you who are not caught up in the generations as we dive into the recap of G27 Garden of Solace. Let's kick this off with a quick summary of the storyline thus far. Please check out the G26 recap video for far better details. The Militian hero broke the God of Freedom's time loop that was created to postpone Phineas's fate until a hero could overcome the god's trials. With that time loop now broken, Phineas's fate is in motion once more. Divine beasts from Phineas are appearing around Alia Kingdom causing problems, but the Militian, along with the help of the mercenaries Anya, Declan, and Shefra, have been successful at keeping the situation under somewhat control. Primarily, they managed to temporarily close the gate of Phineas within the Shadow Realm. However, it becomes clear that all of the cities of the gods are a threat to Erin. Now on to G27. G27 kicks off with the introduction of Vertrog, a powerful giant capable of taking on the divine beast with ease. His arrival also comes with a declaration that he's come to replace the Militian as Erin's hero. Vertrog certainly proves that he has the chops to be a hero of his own. However, he cannot replace the hero Militian despite moments of bubbling doubt and self-reflection. What's soon uncovered by the Militian and their mercenary companions is that Vertrog is an ancient giant from before Irinid's curse in Iria. Did myself or any of the other lore geeks expect to get substantial giant lore in G27? Not at all! Meaning, I need to explain what Irinid's curse is for all the non-readers in the room. Iria's curse. Giants, along with the elves, are natives of Iria. Both races were created by the goddess Nimba, also known as Iridid, in her attempt to create a paradise using the Heart of Coracle, a divine relic that is technically among the energy soup within the Militian hero at the moment. We'll not get into that today. I say that, but I worry this might be relevant for the next generation. Heck. I'll talk about it when it happens. Moving on. The elves and giants were granted power by Nimpan when the dragons first appeared and threatened to take over Iria. The two races, with their guardian of light-like powers, fended off the dragon threat. However, both turned greedy and began to fight each other over the Heart of Coracle. The war between the elves and giants grew and grew, until Nim became fed up with her creations. She cursed all of Iria, and upon the elves and giants she placed harsh punishments. The elves were cursed with forgetfulness, wasting away into husks in the desert that consumed the jungles they once lived in. The giants were cursed with unforgetting memory, and an unforgiving, frozen landscape that made food scarce and warmth fleeting. This curse remained in place until the events of G17 through 18, Iria the Saga 2, whatever you want to call it. The curse was broken and plant life started returning to the elves and giants' homelands respectively as the forest started growing and the ice began thawing. However, the respective effects on the two races' memories seemed to endure, though not in such a detrimental fashion that they once did. The game hasn't really given us a clear answer on this topic, so they're still there, but at the same time it's not really as bad. You get the point. When it's properly revealed that Vertrog is an ancient giant, many questions arise on how he even exists in modern times. After some memory snooping using mysterious fruits and trinkets from Vertrog, it's revealed that he's from some place called Murius, and that he made a pact with a suspicious individual to defeat the Militian hero in exchange for returning to Sunny Vales. However, Vertrog soon learns for himself that the home he knew was long gone, and his pact was a one-sided deal. He had a duel with the Militian outside Vales, and upon his defeat he fell into a comatose of sorts, unable to wake. Team Merlin and Delga? With Vertrog in Sleeping Beauty mode, the Militian and Mercs start trying to find Murius. This is when an unexpected team appears to help out. Delga, Merlin, and Treasure Hunter. Delga started working with Merlin and Treasure Hunter to find the other city of the gods, and a means to shut them down. She reveals that a resident from Phineas told her that all the cities of the gods need to be shut down by removing the divinity within it. With each city shut down, they will no longer pose a threat to Aaron, and Phineas's fate will be subverted.
Cool, but first we need to find Marius!
Through deduction, the group determines that the mysterious guy that helped Vertrog arrive at Aaron from Marius was using an old magic that permitted the city's gate to open in Main Maha despite it being physically elsewhere. Thinking of other large freshwater bodies, the group determines the gate of Marius is in the oasis in Konas. Yeah, that was not my first pick either, but oh well. Arriving at the oasis, Delco uses her teleportation magic to reveal the gate of Marius. However, no one except the Militian can enter it. The residence of Marius. Within Marius, the Militian meets Lennon. The same person from Vertrog's memory and 100% suspicious. He greets us and welcomes us to Marius. And in order for our mercenary friends to enter Marius as well, we need to gain the trust of Marius' residents by helping out with some tasks. The resident in charge of these tasks is Darren, someone who looks identical to and shares the same name as Declan's deceased sister. Upon earning the locals' trust, we're told to have the mercenaries eat a slice of an all-purple fruit from one of Marius' trees. Once they have a piece of Marius within them, they can enter the city freely. When the mercenaries enter Marius with the unconscious Vertrog, the residents have no reaction. None of them know who Vertrog is, despite you and your allies seeing memories of Vertrog interacting with many of these residents, such as Darin and Phaeton. And the oddities get worse when Declan comes face to face with Darin. Declan and Darin. In G26, we learned that Declan was once a guard at Wrath Castle, and that he was amidst all of the soldiers in the G24 battle at Wrath Castle against the Order of the Black Moon and Crone Crutch. His sister, Darin, had passed away in that very same battle, having come to visit him that day right before the battle broke out. Now, in G27, we see the two siblings reunite. At first, Darin doesn't recognize Declan, but after jogging her memories with one of her old perfumes, the two siblings have a heartfelt reunion. That is until she mysteriously forgets all about Declan again and becomes very hostile. The militia and mercenaries soon uncover that Lennon, the caretaker of Marius, has a plant that permits him to manipulate the memories of all of Marius' residents. He erased everyone's memories of Vertrog to avoid complications with the other residents and remain in authority. He even erased Darin's memories of her brother and the mercenaries in hopes of manipulating Declan into betraying the Militian by handing the Militian over to Lennon in exchange for Darin's memory and freedom. Thankfully, Declan didn't want to betray us and permitted the group to find a flaw in Lennon's memory tampering. Certain triggers, like the sense of a perfume, can restore memories, allowing Darin to remember her brother again. Furthermore, Lennon seems to only be able to meddle with one person's memory at a time, creating a window where his schemes can come undone because others remember something that the recently memory erased person does not. The reason for Lennon's meddling is because he wants to preserve the peace and solace of Medeir's garden. Medeir, the goddess of comfort. We glean from Vertrog's memories and are later explained by Lennon himself that all of Marius' residents were individuals who experienced great suffering in their last moments of life. Medeir then plucked those souls from their suffering and gave them a new life within Marius. Their bodies are akin to puppets that don't need to eat or sleep. They just live happily within Marius. However, for each resident to live again, Medeir gave a piece of her own divinity to each of them, ultimately resulting in her ceasing to exist upon giving the final fragment to Lennon, the 13th and final resident of Marius. This information brings the solution to how to shut down Marius. Have each of the residents leave. Alas, if only things were that simple. With the aid of the awakened Vertrog using Marius' waters to repair the damage to his puppet body and memory restored to Darin, the Militian and mercenaries expose Lennon's manipulation to the other residents. However, Lennon refused to give up, and he certainly rejects leaving Marius, as he will do whatever it takes to preserve his beloved Medeir's garden. When Lennon made the pact with Vertrog at the start of the generation, the pact permitted Lennon to control Vertrog's very soul. and have the formidable giant become hostile to the militia once more and attack them in an all-out battle. The other residents all scatter and hide, and Lennon takes the opportunity to flee to the higher levels of Marius. After defeating Vertrog again and chasing after Lennon, the stubborn caretaker awakens Brontantis, the giant horse, not a statue, that has been standing in the upper plaza this entire time. With the mercenaries' aid, Brontantis crumbles, and Lennon is cornered. With Vertrog and Brontantis defeated, Lennon pulls one final stunt. He takes all the divine fragments of Medea from the other residents into his own body to manifest the goddess. This results in Darine and all the other residents vanishing, and Lennon transforming into Medea the Beloved. Lennon's obsession. So, I guess it's time I explain this. To keep it simple, Lennon was a very sad man with no love in his life. Medea popped up, offered him unconditional love, then promptly vanishes, leaving Lennon as the caretaker of Marius. The void in his heart was briefly filled and ripped away by Medea, causing him to try everything in his power to preserve her memory and protect her garden. But his memory of her is fuzzy and he struggles to remember exactly what she looks like. This is conveyed in the generation wherever we see him talking with Medea in the storyline, and in every different scene, Medea's in a different outfit, or has different hair, or eye shapes, or wings. Same colors, but the details are all scrambled. Medea basically created an obsessive monster that loves her more than anything else, fitting as Lennon's name means lover in Gaelic. Taking all of Medea's fragments into himself, Lennon wanted to keep Medea from leaving Marius, and use that divine power to remove the threat that is the militia and the mercenaries out of his Garden of Solace. Ultimately, the militia and their allies defeat this warped Medea. The fragments stolen from the other residents are all freed, and Lennon is left broken and awaiting judgment. But before we get to his fate, let's talk about the other 12 residents of Marius. The fates of all the residents. Vertrog, the first resident. As already mentioned, Vertrog was an ancient giant from before Iranid's curse on Iria. Specifically when the Sharp clan was ruling over the giants. He was betrayed and killed by one of his comrades during the war over the heart of Coracle. Theotan, the second resident of Marius. Theotan is one of the child clones of the Ban clan, the human clan that was also cursed by Iranid alongside the elves and giants on Iria long ago. The Ban clan had fled into Nemetin and would sacrifice clones of 3 civic children in hopes that the god's wrath would kill the child and permit whoever threw the kid out to leave Nemetin and be spared of the curse. No, they got their karma. They got their karma. Meliora, the third resident. Meliora was sacrificed to an unknown god by the Red Rock Priests, a cult that clashed with the Divine Knights and Elder long ago. Beacon, the fourth resident. This cranky old dude was killed by his Fomorian lover after they became very possessive. That's it. That's all we know. Don't know what kind of Fomorian, but it is interesting that in Chapter 7 Apocalypse, there were a lot of comments about Fomorians only loving one person for all their lives. So maybe this is playing upon that. Maybe this is foreshadowing something in the future. We shall see. Ibika, the fifth resident. Ibika is an elf who died searching for her love that had become a ghost. Knowing the history of the elves, it's possible that Ibika died before the memory tower was constructed, as she went off into the desert to find her lover who had become a desert ghost due to the curse. Her death could have been a factor for the memories tower's creation for all we know. Huchan, the sixth resident. Huchan died after being forced into a drinking addiction. We sadly have no further information about him, nor can we figure out where he's from. Non, seventh resident. This elderly woman died of starvation while hiding underground. While we're not given any more in-game information about her, her design resembles that of Delga's. We know thanks to G26, many Furbolg that fled underground had died of starvation, so it's possible Non was one of these Furbolg who died in the aftermath of the first battle of Sinmag. This isn't verified, by the way, this is just a theory to chew on. Rubus, the eighth resident. Rubus is a young elf who died after becoming lost in the desert. He's literally a lost elf, like the ones we can find in coffins in the desert still. Kraha, the 9th resident. Kraha was an explorer who had set off to a new continent. While it's unclear if Ulad or another location was her destination, she had met her end on the open sea due to piracy. Tudor, the 10th resident. Tudor is a Twilight Anon of the Aliat Kingdom. For those who have played all the Sacred Guardian Link quests, he'll be familiar to you. Tudor is Eolar's father, and he passed away when she was a child during a landslide. Sumarle, the 11th resident. Sumarle was killed by a mutated beast. It is speculated that he is a Skahatch Beach patrolman due to his outfit, and that the mutated beast that killed him could have been any monster from Skahatch Beach, or one of the mutated crystalline monsters from the Divine Knights chapter. Darin, the 12th resident. Declan's little sister who died during the Chapter 7 G24 battle against the Black Moon Order at Wrath Castle. And the final resident, Lennon. Lennon took his own life sometime between the start of Chapter 7 G25 and the start of Chapter 8 G27. We have no information on where he's from, nor what his real name is. You heard that right, Lennon is not his real name. Madir really messed this guy up. With all the other residents now moved on in the afterlife and a very, very heartfelt goodbye by Declan and Darin, the Militian mercenaries, now joined by Merlin, Delga, and Treasure Hunter, discover that Marius hasn't shut down yet. Because when Lennon took all the divine fragments from the other residents, he didn't remove the piece from within himself, resulting in him remaining as the last resident. Unfortunately, he can't die, and our allies are worried he may cause problems in the future. So it's decided that Lennon would have his memories erased and he would be taken outside Marius. With his memories removed, the Militian yeets the memory fruit into the void, and everyone drags the factory resetted Lennon outside Marius. Marius thus becomes dormant, shutting down and resulting in no one being able to enter it anymore. Confirming that Marius is no longer a threat to Aaron. When Lennon wakes, he only knows that he's the caretaker of Marius, and remains beside the gate watching over it. And we just leave him there. Mercs, Merlin, people, really? We just leave him there? That's it? Yeah, that's indeed it. Alright. Ow! The generation leaves us on the note that we'll be searching for the city of Gorius next, the sister city of Marius, that is represented by the element of wind. Marius is represented by water, and Phineas is represented by fire, by the way. Fun little tidbit at the end. But anyway, let's talk about some other plot threads now. Shefra's injury. This was brushed off so quick at the start of G27, but that is still a red flag. It's mentioned anew in keywords with the mercenaries at the West Wing camp. And you don't just put a spotlight on something, then ignore it. Speaking of keywords, creating a spotlight! So, all those mentions of Adelia and keywords, it's happening with Isla too! I'll spare everyone the geeking out on this. We will no doubt learn more about this soon in G28. As for other topics mentioned in keywords, our lovely mercenaries have mentioned the following. Lord Foris, the Lord of the Barton, has existed since this game's launch, but has never made an appearance and has only been mentioned in keywords. He's been brought up again by the mercenaries, so maybe he'll make an appearance soon. Spirit Weapon Contract. Of all the keywords, Shefra actually has updated dialogue for this keyword for each generation, and cautions the Militian about contracts and deals. I definitely want to come back and check on this one after G28. Quick theory before we end things. If each of the City of the Gods has a designated divinity keeping it running, minus Thalias, because that's the weirdo one, who are the gods of Gorius and Findius? Marius' god is Madir. Madir has technically appeared in Mabinogi once before via a support puppet alongside Angus and Bolv. It's possible these puppets could allude to the other gods we're going to have to deal with soon, but we'll see. I'm still banking that we might see Bridget finally in Mabinogi. That'd be cool. Anyway, that's all for today, everyone. I hope you enjoy the video. If you haven't, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all the things. I'll see you all soon with G28 Ruins in Twilight. Bye all!